Lovelies, I'm Funmi Richards, and you're welcome back to my channel. Or if you're just finding us, well, welcome to our family. On this channel, we talk about lifestyle, literature, film, and financial wellness. And on today's episode of What I'm Not Quite Sure, okay, yes, on today's episode of talking about financial wellness, I was having a conversation with a friend a few days ago as to how our financial choices today are a reflection of some of the choices our parents made while we were growing up, or rather, some of the choices that we witnessed our parents make while we were growing up. Got me, it got me reflecting on the lessons I learned from my African mom in terms of money and how to make money work for you. Some For those who are Igbos, you would know this ego choego, that you use money to find money. So those kind of things have more or less shaped my financial habits and perspectives, and I thought to share those lessons with you. I hope these lessons would also offer you some insights, and of course, if you have your own lessons you've learned from your parents, either your mother or your father, and you would love to share those nuggets of wisdom with us, I would love to hear about them. And of course, if it's not just like, oh, there are new lessons, or this lessons kind of resonates with your background as a child, please feel free to share, or share with your family members. Feel free to spread the love anyway. So one of the first lessons I learned with my mom in terms of finances is investing in the future. One thing my mom never skimped on was education. I remember overhearing some conversations between her and my dad about how my brothers and I had to get the best education early. My parents weren't what some people would term the wealthiest in the world. However, I can say categorically that my brothers and I attended the best schools wherever we were living at the time. My mom would always emphasize the importance of basic education and how it would give myself and my brothers, or children generally, and give us an opportunity for a better outlook for the future. And it wasn't even just a matter of basic education, it was generally like education. It wasn't education in terms of the four walls of education, like what you would term the institutional learning, but also in terms of vocational skills. Because I remember one time I went, okay, backstory is I went to a boarding school that was internationally recognized, and again, also one of the best at the time when I was growing up. And and my mom, when I came back home for the holidays, with the intention, because my school used to do this thing where you get projects when you're going home for the holidays and all of that. And I was really feeling, oh my God, I need to get home and think of what I'm going to do in my projects. And then I'm thinking, okay, while I'm not doing my projects, I could actually rest or sleep or do something fun, watch movies, do whatever. And then I get home and then I find out that someone announced in church or something about a computer training, and my mom had gone ahead to not just sign me up, she had paid the payment, she had made the payment for the training. She, at the time, she had a sales lady in her shop. She had signed the woman up. She had also signed one of our family friends up for the training. So I come back home finally, and this is what I've met. And at that time, I didn't even know that I would do so much with computers. I mean, see me here recording, and or like in terms of my 9 to 5, in terms of communications, and how so much of what I do is on my laptop or things like that. I didn't even envisage that that was going to be my reality. However, somehow my mom was able to look into investing for the future, so that it wasn't limited to our current situations or our current realities. Then another thing my mom taught me, and I'm really glad for, is tithing. For those who are believers, or even if you're like, it's not even believers as in the Christian faith. If you're a Muslim, there's actually something that's called the Sadaq. I think I may need to confirm or probably put the text or spelling down below. But there is a thing about giving back to the community, or giving making some sort of contributions to the religious institutions that you're part of. So for me, tithing at the time started when I was a teenager, because initially, of course, I'll go to school with allowance. My school even had like, there's a whole lot of stories behind that. I'll probably talk about it on another day. But at some point, when I now fully became a teenager, I think I was 12 or thereabout, or 13, I can't remember. My dad started giving me an allowance. So this was separate from me going to school and collecting money or whatever. This was an allowance as to, even if rain or sunshine, this money is coming to you monthly. So from that money, which also helped me with financial responsibility, because with having the understanding that there's this stipulated amount coming to my account, or it wasn't my account at the time, I think it was my mom's account. I would know that, oh, okay, I have to do a budget as to how I'm going to spend it. My mom would make me sit down and do a budget on how the money would be spent. And this tithing, I realize now, helps me promote financial responsibility, especially put together with a budget, in the sense that I had a breakdown as to 5,000 naira, which I can't remember exactly what year it was, but it was at least 10 years ago. So check, remove 32% inflation in Nigeria, and also consider that at that time, with 5,000, I could actually buy a pair of like really nice slippers, like all those heel slippers, like all those like block slippers actually. Anyway, Titan basically helped me with financial responsibility by encouraging me to prioritize giving back and using my finances as a tool to make impact within, or like to make impact or contribute to my faith. Not in the sense of my faith as to me as an individual, but if you, for whatever you love or whatever matters to you, there's need for funding for that. I'm not about to go into this conversation or the argument as to why tithing is necessary. That's not it. I'm just saying that this was a valuable principle that I learned from my mom. If you have different views, I'm happy to hear them and let's discuss over them. This is a disclaimer, because people that are about against tithing, if they enter my DM, I use God to beg you, do not do that because of this. Instead, just let's have this civil conversations here about this. But essentially, it's helped me to understand that. It helped me to understand how I could contribute to something that mattered to me, which is my faith as a Christian. The third thing I wanted to talk about was multiple streams of income. My mom was a civil servant, with the federal government and all of that. And there were times where they would go months, maybe even years, and they wouldn't pay. And I used to wonder how she was coping, and how she would somehow, she and my dad, somehow we always had enough to eat and sometimes even give out to people. And one of the things I started to understand was my mom had an entrepreneurial spirit, which was evident in her business ventures here and there. She used to bake snacks, and she used to bake snacks, meat pie, fish pie, cookies. I even at some point even joined her and started selling my own brand of cookies. Shout out to my life as a teenager, Sha. Anyway, so all of those things allowed for little bits of income to keep coming back. And even though that the economic situation in terms of government paying salaries and stuff weren't consistent as they should have been. um, these streams of income allowed for money to keep coming in. And one of the things I learned based off of multiple streams of income watching my mom was one of the times when I actually asked her why she would go for snacks. Because okay, the backstory is it's not even just selling snacks. She used to sell snacks. She even used to distribute snacks to people. But we also used to go to Idumota market, would buy a ton of like sample lace, George, all these like kind of outfits that women like. Would buy them in bulk and then we'll sell them. There was also shirts, trousers for men, and even for small children. I think there were clothes for, I can't really recall, but I feel like there was a time when we would buy clothes for children. And I remember having one conversation with her, wondering why she would go for that side of that line of business. And one thing she told me was that no matter what is going on in any economy, people must eat and people must wear clothes. But they don't want to wear clothes as adults, like okay, you just keep repeating clothes. But if you have children, you're going to want to let get your children dressed. You don't want your children looking like it's only you that poverty is sitting down in your house and playing and singing hymns. So at the end of the day, you're going to have to like buy clothes or like buy food or get something that like something easy you can eat while you're working or doing something else. So let me confirm. So despite all of the changes that have happened over the last 10 years in terms of economic um, changes, in terms of technological advancement, like for now you'd say okay, so most businesses are like tech based, or if they are not actually tech directed or with the direction of tech, there must be a touch of tech, because either you have a website, you have a social media page, or you actually have an app or something, and all of those things are actually related to tech. So but at that time, I guess she taught me what she knew at the time. So there's of course like updates in terms of what has been taught and what I now know in terms of like the influences or things that I've learned. But I remember this thing as to like the physiological needs in terms of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how that comes to play in how, or the kind of market power, sorry, the buying power an economy could have in terms of their individual economic power. So the next thing is financial transparency and responsibility. I feel like I've mentioned financial responsibility in some sort of way, or in when I talked about tithing, when I talked about a few other things. I feel like financial responsibility has been a consistent thread through much of what I've said. But I feel that I should mention financial transparency and responsibility, because one of the things I remember as a child was the fact that women, so if you're a civil servant, usually there's a thing called pay slip. At least that's what I knew at that time. So my mom would tell me, oh, this is what she's collected as a salary. I could like, I used to collect my mom's pay slip, because sometimes I'm at her office doing something and then somebody brings around the, oh, give your mom the payslip. And I was a very inquisitive child, so oftentimes I would just end up reading it and trying to understand what the tax is, what they're paying for lights, paying for all of those things, because those things were considered in the payslip, because they were living in the federal government establishment. Anyway, financial transparency. I know that a lot of people have this conversation as to what you should tell a child and what you shouldn't tell a child, and the fact that you don't want to pass on the responsibility of like, oh, would there be money? Is there enough money? And if you're blessed, I use blessed as, I don't know how else to describe it, but if you're wealthy enough so that your child doesn't need to bother about where the next meal is coming from, that is a blessing in itself. Whether you're a believer or not a believer, or whoever you are, I feel like that's a blessing all around. So I feel like it's something that it can help the financial transparency can help the child build some sort of sense of responsibility in terms of how to manage the money that is coming. Of course, this is not money that you're going to give your child all of your salary. God forbid, we're not about to preach that here. But it's the idea that, oh, okay, from this salary, you know how much your parents are earning. And of course, personally, there are things that happen in the house, and I shouldn't just go around propagating the gospel of what happened. So I learned, of course, responsibility from that entire encounter. But the point I was trying to make was the fact that based off of the things we've already taught our children, we can now inculcate the financial responsibility based off of the transparency that, oh, this is what I have. And even if you're worth millions of dollars, it's also I feel like it's also important that you also think about how best to bring your children into the business. Even if they come in as interns during the summer, they should be able to come in and make meaningful contributions. Even if they're not even there to make meaningful contributions, let them just sit down there and understand what you do and how you make your money. Because then we can reduce the risk of when the child grows up or when the child is older, and then you're now having that conversation as to, oh, this is what you're doing, I want you to join the company, and the child is like, I don't understand what you're talking about because I cannot relate, or I have other passions. But if you're able to bring the child in early enough, the child may or may not build a passion, but there's a higher chance of the child building a passion if that is something that you've exposed the child to. So financial transparency and responsibility helps to build contentment in terms of, okay, this is what my father or my mom or both my parents earn. And I believe that building a financial culture should be focused on sustainability and income generation. And I believe that if children are taught to understand the value of money, which goes back to what I was saying as to bringing your children into your business so that they know how you make your money. They don't need to make the money at that stage, especially the early stage. Some children actually, there are children who are earning a lot of money through content creation or like and whatnot. But at that point, they don't need that pressure. So just in case that happens, that, oh, by chance they can actually make money at that stage, that's lovely. But if they can't, that's also lovely. Be a parent. Don't pass on the burden of financial responsibility to your children, but be able to teach them so that they know better, so that when they actually have the money of their own, they can do better. For listening to this money lessons from my childhood lessons with my African mother. I feel like there are so many other lessons, but I think these are the first that come to mind. I think I can remember lessons about borrowing and lending, and what to look out for when lending money to someone, what to look out for when I'm asking someone to borrow me money, and why I should be borrowing money. But I probably will say that somewhere, or probably write a blog and talk about it. Anyway, um, I hope this inspires you to reflect on your financial journey. Pass on, perhaps you can share some valuable lessons to the next generation, or even myself, because I feel like there's a lot in terms of financial lessons I should be learning. But in case you have something, you can please share. Until the next time, take care and stay financial savvy. Thank you.